Food is more than just what's on our plate. It's the places where it's grown, it's the people who grow it, and so much more. Join me, Janice Person, your host, on Grounded by the Farm every other week as we talk about the foods we love. Hey everybody, this is Janice, and welcome to another episode of Grounded by the Farm. This week, we're taking a very different turn geographically, and we're going to Morocco, which is one of those countries I think kind of gets a mystique and an aura. Maybe everybody doesn't think about plant breeding, but that's where we are today. And we're going to be talking to Priyanka Gupta. I met Priyanka also in Mexico, but I'm not going to go through that whole thing again. But I had a chance to talk with her while we were there, and we've kept in touch by social media all these years. And so now, Priyanka, if you don't mind, would you introduce yourself? I think you grew up in India, right?
Yes, absolutely. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere thanks for having me here, Janice.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, as you said, I grew up in northern central part of India. If you ask me how did I come to agriculture research, then definitely in that area where I grew up is called the Bundelkhand region, where women are destined to get married in 20s. And if they would like to opt a career, then agriculture research was not definitely a part of their profession, but teacher was the profession where they can balance their family and their work life.
Yeah, you're a little bit different than the typical girl from your area, huh?
Yeah, exactly. As time moves, so some of my cousins and siblings, they chose engineering, IT field, and but not agriculture. So then it was like my siblings always used to encourage me because of my curious learning habits. At the same time, during my primary education, I used to participate in lots of, these activities, where one of them was to about the deforestation, how we can save the trees. And then, so that's how I drove towards environment.
Yes, I have that same passion for the planet. And when I found agriculture, it just made sense for me.
And then actually turning point began when I joined Indian Council of Agriculture Research as a senior research fellow in my own city, Jhansi, as well as in Delhi, in IARI. So I was working on this underutilized crop, which we are going to talk today, grass fee. And I was lucky enough to award it as a very prestigious fellowship called Biodiversity Wavelo Franklin Fellowship. So that's how I came to Icarda.
Now, not very many people listening know what Icarda is, so maybe we should explain.
Yeah, so Icarda is one of the 15 CGIAR center. Is a global research center which works on the dryland agriculture system. Icarda has some mandate crops, cereals, and food legume, especially the cool season food legume crops. And cereals crops includes the bread wheat, durum wheat, and barley. And cool season food legume crops includes fava bean, chickpea, especially Kabuli chickpea.
Yes.
And fava bean, Kabuli chickpea, lentils, and also grass pea.
Yeah, pulses and all are a really important part of diets. And I know India has a special love for chickpeas and lentils, right?
Yeah.
We actually did an episode on lentils a few months ago and have done one on purple hull peas, but those are very different, I think, than the grass pea.
Yeah. Actually, grass pea is kind of, if people taste it's tastes like a bit like a chickpea only.
Okay.
So it looks like grass and it tastes like pea, and because it's a pea family, so it's a grass pea. It's a general name. So we were talking like about Icarda. So Icarda, when I supposed to join Syria in 2012 when I awarded this fellowship. But because of the civilian unrest in Syria, Icarda decentralized their program at North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, as well as in South Asia.
Yeah, I think a lot of people may remember some of that discussion around Syria versus Morocco, because at the time in northern Syria is where some of the genetics from Icarda were located, right? And I remember a discussion about a lot of people being very worried about the seed library. So not a lot of people really follow that anxiously, but it was very big in the news that there was this seed concentration that had always been in Syria. And Icarta is in all of these dry environments. They're looking for the crops that do really well in countries with this desert-like, or at least drought area. And Syria is one of them, but they moved a lot of that to Morocco before things got as bad as they've continued to get, right?
Yeah, there is a documentary on gene bank in Syria. Actually, also the previous DG, they presented in World Food Prize program about the ICARD under war. So it was like many presentation did, and the documentary as well, and the seed deposited in Salward region. So
we'll have to get the link for that documentary so people can follow and watch it.
Yeah, sure. I will share with you.
Great,
Yeah.
Great. All this consultative group in agricultural engineering globally, and you're in the part that focuses on the drier parts of the world. And that's where grass pea works well. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, my fellowship was from Biodiversity International.
Okay.
So it's the Pavilo Franklin Fellowship. So I submitted the proposal on underutilized crop, and that was grass pea. That's how Enricarda has a mandate crop. And because of this movement, I happened to be here in Rabat, Morocco. And at that time, there were so many challenges. Under these challenges, many big guns of the agriculture leaders used to come here, and they talk about the agriculture development, technology, science. So those kind of, their stories and their knowledge and insights encourage me.
Yeah. It's like a global center really for breeding and science and technology.
Exactly.
And so you actually mentioned that Lee who was on our last episode, has been there a few times and part of the work he's doing as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It seems like a really exciting arena for so many scientific minds.
Yeah, actually dealing with them, interacting with them and their personality, it was itself very learning process. And at the same time, after finishing this scholarship, I met another, I was looking for the PhD. And there I met here who is working as a Durham beet breeder, Dr. Filippo Bassi. I think you know him.
Oh, yes. Filippo was the one that Lee was giving a hard time to because we made him do an interview for me while we were in Mexico.
Okay. So actually, and he's one of my co-advisor during PhD. Okay. So that's how I submitted the proposal for Monsanto Beach Waller International Scholarship. And it was another blank book for me when I came from Graspi to Durham Beat. So it was like kind of, you are getting the boost. And then that's how I went to University of Bologna, Italy. And there again, working with Professor Tuberosa, Dr. Macafari. And so those kind of, their genotyping work here, phenotyping from Icarda. So that's all, overall, these things energized me a lot, encouraged me to, and then afterwards I met to, the Dr. Sanjay Rajaram, one of the World Food Prize laureate body from 2014.
Oh,
so, yeah. And I also participated in the World Food Prize program. There again, I met Dr. Khush and many big guns of agriculture leaders. So that's how the journey is like. To be very frank, I was not very clear about my career option in the beginning, but I would say agriculture ordained in my life to be part of, to serve for this research and then breeding and also working on those crops.
Yeah. So you were working on grass pea and then you started working on wheat for a while and now you're back on grass pea. Plant breeding kind of techniques and stuff, they really are able to be used in one crop versus another, and you learn new things by working with a different crop that maybe you can bring back, or how does all of that work?
Yeah, actually that is very interesting question. If we talk about the breeding, actually it is not a very different. It is same, except how the crops is. Like if I am working on the legume crops, definitely there are some different growing habits. Crop is different. For example, whatever I have learned from the wheat, it is also self-pollinating crop. Grass pea is itself self-pollinating crop. So breeding methods, techniques, everything is similar, but the crop behavior is different.
Yes, yes. And certainly the products made out of it later are different.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely, whatever I have learned, even some of the experiment which I have done during my PhD, I'm repeating here in my grass pea experiments. For example, for the roots behavior, I'm looking for the root architecture because the grass pea is one of the drought tolerant crop.
Okay.
So I'm looking for how the roots are different from the cereals and why they are drought tolerant. What are the speciality?
Yeah. So when you say root architecture, I think a lot of us understand how trees put their roots out in a branching kind of formation where they go out sort of near the top of the soil. They start going out before they go down so much. And most of us have grown something in our yard, some flowers or something that puts that long tap root. So those are two of the primary differences. Like, is it one long big root that then branches out from there? Or is it a series that kind of branch out from the main plant? And that's part of root architecture. But really what you're thinking about is how much root mass can you get there and how deep can it go so it can tap into water that's not on the surface. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. When we talk about the root system architecture, so there are, there is a deep rooting system,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a crown-like wide structure system.
Yep.
And in case of grass pea, it is completely different because you have a lateral and secondary roots.
Okay.
And then in case of wheat, it is entirely different structure.
Yeah.
So definitely it is we are looking for some kind of, the deep rooting system is responsible to extracting the water and nutrients from the soil.
Yep.
Or it is something like which is the biting the root, so it is making the horizontal kind of structure which is helping to extracting the water.
Exactly. Okay. I wanted to make sure everybody understood why root structure really matters, because what it's doing is really help providing all of the water and nutrients for the crop. So if you don't have good root systems, and part of that comes from breeding efforts, right?
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay. How do you know what farmers need as a plant breeder, right? Like part of it is you're trying to anticipate what farmers need. You're not just seeing the problems they have today, but you have to look at the problems 10 years away or 20 years away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you start forecasting that?
Actually, if you talk about like what farmers need and what we need, actually it is not a one-way process, it is a two-way process.
Okay.
So if I talk about again the grass pea crop, then it is from ancient time the farmers are growing this crop. Interaction with the farmers in the field, when you go to the field and through the market research, what consumers needs, that actually give you the plan of your breeding product profile, what you are going to talk about, like what you are going to research about. For example, many years back, there was no need of like people are like, if I talk about people are talk about the food security, like by 2050, how many times we heard that 9.9 billion people and we need to feed them, and so we talk about the cereals. But at this moment, I can see the nutritional security is equally important.
Yes. And grass pea is a good protein source.
Yeah, exactly. More than 31% of protein, better than other legume seeds. And that's how it moves, actually. What farmers were doing while the interaction before and what we are doing now, what is the requirement in our market here? Actually, people are looking for more plant-based protein.
Yeah.
So there are so many plant-based protein industry.
Yeah. And it's got 30% more protein than other legumes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And other legumes, in case of chickpea and in case of lentils, it is around 20 to 25%. And in case of grass pea, it is 30%. Only soybean, I think it is a little bit up. It's a oilseed legume. So yeah, it varies. So grass pea is a good source of the protein, and that's how it is getting the attention of many breeders and many research scientists to bring it in front.
Can you help me understand where grass pea is grown and eaten and all those kind of pieces?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, if we, as I said, like grass pea, if we talk about the history, then from the ancient time, from the farmers started the journey from the Fertile Crescent. It began grass pea cultivation, and but. There is a, if you go through the literature, there are so many striking phrases you will come across, and so many names of the grass pea. Grass pea is a boon or bane, as grass pea is the poisonous crop, or grass pea is like a destroyer or survivor. So there are so many blocks you will come through. So you will people like have no idea, like it is a poisonous crop, so we should not grow. What is the problem with that? So so I would begin the story in this way. Grass pea is actually a renaissance crop. It's a rebirth crop. So here I would like to actually begin with the story. If I ask you to go to the desert and you are not having like a whole day of water, and some noble soul come to you and ask you the water, what would be your reaction? You will say, it is my second birth, you know. So, so the grass pea has those kind of history. At the time of famine, when there were so much drought, so much heat, there was very limited water, and people were very poor. And this crop, hardy crop, grown in that environment.
That's fantastic. And it's such a nutritional source too. So it's not just that you're getting food, but you're getting really nutritious food.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem here again comes, like it has a one plant toxins.
Right.
It's called the ODAP, is ODAP content. So that is a neurotoxin. If people take this grass pea for a longer period, overconsumption, then it can cause a paralysis in the lower part of the body.
And when you say overconsumption, you mean an intense amount of it as a portion of their diet, like they're not getting other things, or it's such a high concentration.
Exactly. And yeah, here is actually very, if I would ask you what is the poison, then poison is a different, poison is a dose, has a different meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Everything can be a poison if it is taking in the overconsumption and in an intense amount,
Yes.
as you said. Like for diabetic people, if I would give the sugar, then definitely it is a poison for them. And celiac people, like wheat, barley, and rye is a poison. And
and you can hear of people actually drinking themselves to death in terms of water, even because your body can't process enough at a certain point. So it's the dose that makes the poison, is the way we have that saying, right?
Exactly. And when people take this for longer time, so overconsumption, actually, if you see the literature and when people studied, they say the one very famous quotation comes with the grass pea, that the overconsumption for the longer time causes the paralysis in the lower part of the body. But I would like to ask them, which food category will pass these tests? If you anything which you eat, consume for a longer period and for longer time and intense quantity, then definitely it will be poison for everyone. You should decide the content. So that is the actually message. And it happened during the famine time, when especially in the African countries, Ethiopia, also South Asia, in Bangladesh, where people having very poor people, they were not having the food. So they were so much dependent, and every day as a staple crop, they used to consume grass pea.
Right. So when there's a famine and you have very other limited resources, it's what you have. So you eat it and then you overconsume and it causes the problem. So as a breeder, ICARDA is working on that. And that's part of your work, is to reduce the amount of the toxin produced in the plant. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, ICARDA has more than 50 grass pea Lethyrus species. Actually, grass pea has a botanical name Lethyrus, which has 50 species and more than crop bile relatives. They are adding them, those numbers, and so many accessions of the cultivated species called Lethyrus sativus. So the purpose of my work also, and from the ICARDA as a mandate crop, they would like to make ODA-free grass pea varieties.
Okay.
But they would like to remove the plant toxins, but there are so many research also in India. It's the National Institute of Nutrition based in Hyderabad. They have observed that this grass pea has one very important amino acid, homoarginine. And this homoarginine is the catalyst, is the substrate for nitrous oxide. And nitrous oxide helps for the cardiovascular diseases or also for the Alzheimer diseases. So they say, like, if you consume grass pea in a very small amount, it is good for your well-being. It can help you, it can keep you away from the cardiovascular diseases. So actually the little amount of the beta ODAP is also good, but it should not be, but still, like, if there is a stigma in the people's mind, if there is a beta ODAP, they would definitely not consume it. So many, the developed countries, institutions like John Innes Center and also the Queensland University from Australia, they are kicking off the gene.
Yeah. It makes so much sense to me. As you know, I truly love the cotton crop. That's what I am highly involved in. And a gentleman by the name of Kirti Rathore at Texas A&M has worked on eliminating gossypol, which is a toxin in cottonseed and things. And it takes a lot of work, but he finally got to where he's been able to do it. And the idea is cottonseed has always been eaten by animals, especially cattle and things. But in some parts of the world where you have deep hunger and people happen to grow cotton, wouldn't it be great if they could also eat the seed and get the protein and the oils and stuff from it? So I think it's a very similar type of project, is it?
Yeah, actually, in case of grass pea, there is a different story as well, because I'm not very familiar with the cottonseed which you mentioned, but definitely if there is a toxin, there is a problem, because people, and these cases actually was like 3 decades before, ancient cases, even not in that, because we already have the very low toxins grass pea varieties, but people use as a fodder here rather than it, because some of the states and some of the countries, they ban for its cultivation and for consumers.
Okay.
It is good for only for fodder purpose. They use it to, but it is fine, I guess. And also homoarginine and nitrous oxide itself is a very important, substrate to extract to take it from this legume. So it is very much important to not to completely remove this beta toxin. Rather than, we should give the therapeutic use of the grass pea, saying that, okay, it is a poisonous crop or not. Just give what is the meaning of that. So as I said, you, poison is what when you take the overconsumption and for the intense amount, that is poison. So here it doesn't fit very well.
Yeah. Can you tell me what the crop looks like? I know you sent some photos, and we're gonna have those on the blog and on the website in the show notes. But can you tell me what it looks like? You said it's a little bit like grass, so it grows low to the ground. It doesn't come up as a big bush the way some peas and lentils do.
Actually, there is a great diversity in that. If you see different species,
okay.
For example, some grass pea species looks like exactly like pea.
Okay.
One of my friend, also collaborator from John Innes Center, I just put as a DP my grass pea crop. He was thinking it is a pea, but it was not a pea. So some of the species looks like exactly like pea, but yeah, it looks like a lot of grass on the ground, and some are also very bushy, and you can see a bit biomass. So it is good for fodder. That's why.
As I said that, I thought, well, grasses are very different too, right? Like some grasses stay very low, and some, if you don't cut them back, it's a problem. So then it produces, is it a pea pod like we're familiar with? Like edamame is a pod of peas or something. Are they small like lentils or bigger around?
No. It's like a pea pods. It has like a similar kind of structure. And those kind of peas seeds, like 3 or 4, depending on the different kind of cultivars we are producing here. So it varies in the seed quantity.
Yes. So if you think about it, in Africa, is this something that's grown more in the northern areas of Africa, not sub-Saharan?
No. If you talk about Morocco,
okay,
as it would not be very different from the America. Not many people know about the crop. Only few people know Like if I was taking some survey, I was preparing some blogs, or we are also, because to spread the awareness of this crop, we are in continuation to in the preparing the website, like we are working on it. So when I wanted to talk with the farmers, so they were like, and they were not very aware, because the grass pea has their local name. Each country, even within country, in each state, there is some local name they call. Like in India, where I grew up, I used to know this crop as the kesari, and nobody knew about that. And then suddenly, when you come into the science, then okay, like Hyros sativus or grass pea or something like that.
Okay.
And what people used to do in India, I remember, like from the local market, they used to mix the chickpea flour with the grass pea flour.
Okay.
So because it tastes similar, it looks similar, so they used to mix it and they used to sell because it was cheaper for them. Chapatis and different kind of curries and different type of soups, and we call it pakora, like something spicy, like freeze.
So it's cheaper than lentils. Grass pea is. It's easier to grow, or all these things.
Because it doesn't take, it's very low input. It doesn't take you much water. It doesn't take any fertilizer, chemicals, and special quality, like it is has a tolerance for abiotic stresses. Like, the range of the grass pea, it from drought to waterlogging. It can tolerate drought.
Oh, wow. And, so it can go from drought to being in like flooded land.
Yes, exactly. That is like very marvelous,
Yeah. And especially with the shifting weather patterns we have coming now, right?
The climate change.
It seems harder and harder to predict what a season will look like.
Exactly. And, in case if you go to the Bangladesh and also the West Bengal of India, there they use as a relay cropping. They just throw the seeds of grass pea when the standing crop arrives there. So it grow automatically. So they can have, this is an insurance crop for them.
Yeah.
You can have a benefit of 2 crops at the same season.
Okay. That sounds great.
So that kind of, so farmers just get the benefit by this crop. So that was and they don't have to give any water or the nutrient, like the fertilizers, chemicals, and it is like very low input. And again, another thing, because it is a legume, high protein, and so also it enriches the soil.
Yes, especially legumes do great if you're rotating it with corn or wheat or something. They're very complementary in terms of what they add back to the soil and take away and things, right?
And that's what actually the developed countries are trying to do, because they have, those monocropping system. So this can be a diversifying crop for them, and it can enrich the soil. And again, the another benefit is the plant-based protein industry.
I noticed in some parts of the world, it's called a vetch. And in the US, we plant a lot of cover crops that are there, from the fall to the winter if you're not planting something else. And it puts a cover on the field and it helps add back nutrition. So are you suggesting that maybe even some grass pea could be grown in that, and so it would actually be a crop that you could harvest? Can you grow it over winter, or how is it grown at time of year?
Yeah, it is true. Actually, it is a cool season food legume crop. So it grows in winter, and it is a very, very good cover crop.
Oh, great.
So it can be like, as you said, the base or cover crop. It can perfectly work with this.
Wow. So do we have anybody in the US? It looked like Washington State maybe has had some work in grass pea.
Not really. Actually, I don't have any they are working on lentils and so many other legumes, but they don't have any projects on grass pea.
Okay.
But in UK and Australia, yeah, they are intensely working on it. Also, University of Western Australia, also John Innes Center, and Queensland University, and also Canada.
Mm-hmm.
They are working on it because of this so many therapeutic use. And also not only the breeders, not actually also the medical research, they are working on it. So in India, what center I was talking about, it is the medical center, ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research. They are working as how we can extract this nitric oxide, use as a substrate to treat the Alzheimer's disease and cardiovascular diseases.
So it may be like a perfect plant. It offers health benefits that can be used medicinally.
Exactly. And I always say like it is an incredible plant. When I talk about it, I feel so energized because it is my first love. I started my journey, agriculture journey with this crop. And then now I'm working on it. And moreover, like it has so much to deliver. Like if you talk about the wheat, so many research has done and so many things already we have to actually, because definitely it is a staple crop. But in case of grass wheat, not a lot of research has done. We have a lot to offer, lot to give, and so many qualities which actually very few people are exploring. So there is a big scope of science.
Wow, I can tell you're excited, and I wish we shared video of this because your facial expressions are so happy. It seems a job that's very rewarding. When you go back to India now, where most of your friends, maybe from primary school or something, didn't take these paths to take careers necessarily as far, although I know with Indian women, it's certainly become more common each generation, each year. What do your friends say when you go back to India to visit family? Your family and friends just kind of amazed by it?
Yeah, that is very interesting question. Actually, it absolutely changed. You know, when I see my past and now, it like when I interact with them. So they when actually there are two things. In the beginning, when I was doing PhD and when I visited them, they were like, "Oh, farmers, you know, they don't have very high remark for farming and agriculture, you know, research, and they used to think like, okay, this is a dirty job, you know, and because not many so many future perspective. If you see the no stable job, you know, there is so much struggle with that.
Yes.
So but with the global, you know, because of the environmental activists nowadays, if I talk, they are very like when they see my post, and when because of the environmental activists, they spread the awareness. They say, okay, organic farming and agriculture research, you know, so they are now getting encouraged and energized, and where I am playing the role. And I feel so proud, I feel so rewarded in that way, because last time I remember in 2019, I visited India and I visited nearby my blazes and also their children. And when I asked them what is your life goal, they will say, I would like to become engineer, I would like to move to cities, you know. Not a single child would like to opt a career as a farmer or agriculture research or so.
Keep working on them.
Actually, you know, the another problem what we do, there is a gloomy picture of the farmers. He is struggling with the climatic variables, not having enough money, especially in developing countries. I'm not talking about the developed country.
Yes.
So they have those gloomy pictures, so they think like it is not a very good job. Very, you know, my professor used to say agriculture is 1% inspiration and 90%, 99% is the perspiration.
Yes.
So that exactly fit. So definitely people would like to go for the smart life nowadays. But I would like to, whenever I meet them and I tell them like, see, there is so many modern courses. Like if you go for the agriculture is not only limited to farmers, definitely there is a one part which will deliver to us, but there are so many branches from agribusiness, from the like if you go for the other software which we are using nowadays. So there is a agri engineer, agri like you can be having so many disciplines actually in agriculture.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really surprising. I mean, I didn't grow up in agriculture and I had no idea there was a whole field of agricultural communications like that people would study and things like that, because to me, I think of communications as a skill that you can move from one topic to another, much like you can say on plant breeding, you can move those tools from one to another. You know, I know how to write press releases. I know how to do different things on social media. I know how to set strategy. So I can work in different fields. And I love that we've figured out that it's very similar in plant breeding. You know, once you start studying some of these science areas, you can move from one area to another. And you get that excitement of discovery or creating the thing that solves problems for other people.
Exactly, you know, you will wonder, I would like to be of, like, when I started my journey, I wanted to become a journalist.
Really?
I would like to come into this communication, and I drove to agriculture. And when I was working, and I realized there is a lack of communication in agriculture. The scientist doesn't know, like they are very limited to their research articles. They are very limited to their chapters or the research, whatever. Even some scientists I know, they are not even interested for their research article. They just want to convey their message to farmers.
Yes, yes. I think it's definitely an area of improvement over the last decade, maybe, where more people in science and more people in agriculture are aware that a lack of communication has gotten it to a place where it's not well understood by some. And so by opening up more communications, still need to focus on data, but how to tell the stories that the data help you build is so important.
Actually, that's where you inspired me a lot. I would definitely say, because you are like a storyteller, and I believe, like, people would like to listen a story, not a science. Like, definitely science, but with a story. If they don't feel energized, when they don't feel motivate, how they can bring to the, like, impact to the society, so they need some story to listen. We have to give the very good picture of agriculture communication, agriculture science, agriculture breeding, or whatever the agriculture discipline we are involved in.
Exactly. I think we're about at the time to wrap up. So if people want to continue following your story, I know you're on Twitter. Do you connect with people mainly through Twitter, or do you have other channels that you also welcome our listeners to follow you on?
Yeah, that would be fine for me. Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, those are the platform. So that would be absolutely fine. And wherever you feel like it's I saw your website, and then I can also be sharing those. It is a great privilege to do that.
Yes. We'll put those all in the show notes so people can click on them and find them. I saw a really good video that explains Acarda and some things like that. So I'll make sure we put all of those together, because I think it would be great for people to continue building their understanding of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Priyanka, thank you so much for joining us. I think I learned way more about grass pea than I thought was possible. And you made me very intrigued about how it might fit with American farmers or farmers in Canada and some other places, as well as people that are in these developing countries where they're really looking to feed themselves, and they have such dramatic climate sometimes that they need something that they know they can count on for themselves, their family, and their immediate community to feed themselves. So thank you so much. I'm going to encourage everybody to not only listen to this episode, but since you've gotten this far in it, I know you've listened, please make sure you share this with others so that they'll understand this part of agriculture, especially if it's some girls in places where maybe they haven't been encouraged to find different paths than tradition might have. I think Priyanka gives a great look at how that works. Always, you can find us on Grounded by the Farm, but we really hope you'll share this with some people in your lives that also love science. All right, thank you very much. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I'm even on Clubhouse, so feel free to look us up. Also on our website, groundedbythefarm.com. Wherever you want to get in touch, we're trying to be there. Shoot us a message about questions you have about farming and food. I hope you enjoy these episodes enough that you'll share them with friends, whether that's via social media or in a conversation. Love to think some of that is while you're having dinner with friends and family. This is a production of Grounded Communications. Editing is by Two Guys Talking. Thank you.